So we all come together now. And in this now moment, no matter where we are, we're still all clear, sovereign, soulful, and yet connected. So I invite you, as we come together to celebrate Adamus sharing with us, I invite you to breathe. Take the deep and conscious breath, breathing deeply, deeply into you. Allow yourself to breathe deeply and feel, expanding within, feeling your whole body and expanding out. And as you breathe, feel your full soul self, all that you are. Breathe. Breathe and receive. Breathe and celebrate. Breathe as we welcome Adamus.
I am that I am, Adamus of Sovereign Domain. I've been waiting patiently, or perhaps not so patiently, for this opportunity to be with you tonight. But what a delight to be walking amongst all of you, every one of you listening in tonight. I hope you could feel my presence as I brushed past you, as I sometimes peered out at you from your computer screen, quite to your surprise, or just embraced you, my energy into your energy. I actually didn't mind so much at all that Caldra, Linda, Isa, and Joe talked for a while, because it gave me a chance to be with you for a moment. Oh, yes, some of you were saying, when is Adamus coming on? When is all this chatter going to stop? But take a deep breath for a moment. I was with you. I was with each and every one of you as you added your energy to the group, as we gathered our energies tonight for some more transmuting, some more change that's going out into the world. And what a terrific, beautiful time for us to be gathering, because the world is changing. The world is changing in amazing ways that perhaps many of you don't even realize right now, but somewhere deep down inside of you, you are very aware of it. You're very aware that this lifetime isn't like any of the other lifetimes you've ever had. I have to chuckle at times because I see parts of your psychic being projecting yourself back into other lifetimes as a way of comparing this time on Earth with other times on Earth. You project yourself back to say, well, how did I handle it back then? What did I do in a certain particular lifetime? What cause and effect situations were handled by those past life aspects? So you try to make sense out of today's reality by going back and looking at past lives. And it doesn't work so well, because the world is in a much, much different place than it was 50 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 or 2,000 or even 50,000 years ago. And I'm going to insert this as we continue our discussion by saying, if you think you can go back to Atlantis or Lemuria for the good old days, if you think those were advanced cultures, if you think they had the answers and somehow these got lost upon humanity over the eons of time, I challenge you. I challenge you to take a deeper look. They were wonderful times in many respects. They were beautiful times, but Atlantis wasn't any more advanced than what you are today. They had some different technologies that you may consider to be a little bit more advanced, but they had they did not have a lot of other technologies. Lemuria, a beautiful time, a time of learning to put your angelic energy down to earth, but it wasn't any higher consciousness or higher vibration. Humanity has actually, and the consciousness of humanity has been on the rise. And it is at an all-time high right now. That's also causing a lot of the issues and the problems on Earth, because there is not the template, there is not the previous experience for humanity in general to be able to understand how to handle the issues that it's facing today. And the biggest issue that humanity is facing, it's not finance, it's not fuel energy, it's not the environment. Those are all sub-issues to the big issue that's taking place on Earth right now. And the fact is, Earth, humanity, everyone on Earth in physical body and everyone connected to Earth in the non-physical realms is going through awakening. Earth, the physical part of Earth, is awakening now as Gaia slowly withdraws her energy and a new spirit of Earth is being created. That is an awakening. Humanity is going through an awakening. Now, that may not be so obvious to you on an everyday level where you're sitting in traffic or when you're reading the newspapers or you're dealing with the mundane issues at your job, but truly, humanity is going through an awakening. It's important to understand that things aren't falling apart, but in a way, it's important to also understand that everything that was based on old energy structure starts to get shaken up. These are the things that you hear about or read about in the papers or discuss with your friends, or the dramas that seem to touch your everyday life. Old structures are getting shaken up. Structures like finance, a financial system that you know now has been around for approximately 1,500 years, and it's getting shaken up. Religion's been around for as long as 5,000 years. They're getting shaken up right now. Fuel, what powers all of your automobiles and turns on the lights and heats your home. These technologies have been around for 100, maybe 200 years. Even those are getting shaken up right now. It's not because anybody is doing anything wrong. It's because it's time. It's the time that has been prophesized for thousands, tens of thousands of years. It's the time that you've known has been coming. You've been waiting for it for many, many lifetimes, and now you're here. A global awakening. That's why things seem to be so out of order, but actually they're not. What appears to be chaos is not chaos at all. It's just a realignment. And as the hosts and the guests were saying before, it's a reconnection that's taking place right now. You should be able to understand it and relate to it perfectly well because you've been going through it for many years now. And finally, humanity, this beautiful place called Earth, is starting to go through it. What's important to note here is that it's not just isolated to Earth. As consciousness increases, as old structures start restructuring in a new energy way, it also affects everything in the near-Earth realms. The near-Earth realms are where most people go when they leave the physical body, what you call death. Most humans don't go off to, I guess what you would call heaven or some type of nirvana. Most humans, when they die, go into the near-Earth realms, where they literally bring all their beliefs, all their fears, all their joys, all their expertise, everything that they've ever done on Earth, they bring with them to the near-Earth realms, everything except their physical bodies. The near-Earth realms are actually more massive, or they're more complex than Earth itself, because there are so many dimensions within it. There are people who have very strong religious beliefs. When they die, they go to the near-Earth realms and live out those religious beliefs in the other realms. There are those who think that when you die, you cease to exist, and they cease to exist in the near-earth realms. You go there and bring everything with you except the physical body. The reason that this is important, because as the consciousness of Earth and humanity is at an all-time high and is going through its incredible changes right now, it affects the near-earth realms. It affects all of the entities, all of the beings, and all of the energies that are hanging out there right now, yes, including your grandmother. It affects the way that humans come back to Earth, or the angelic beings come back to Earth and take on human form. It affects what you would call the pathways that an entity takes to come back for yet another incarnation. So therefore, it affects the actual birth process here on Earth, a process that has been in place for hundreds and thousands of years without any significant change. The coming back to Earth process, the rebirthing, is changing right now. If you can imagine now, let's just say that you were ready to come back for another lifetime on Earth, you are on the other side in the other realms, and you expected the journey back to physical Earth, the journey through what we call the tube, to be the same as it's been for 500 or 1,000 other incarnations, and you expect it to be the same, and it's not. Can you imagine what's happening to the entities who are coming back once again? But it's all different. It's all different. And of course, as was mentioned earlier in the program, everybody tends to run around saying, what am I doing wrong? Or, worse yet, saying, what are you doing wrong that's affecting so much change in my life? But this is a byproduct. This is the result of this global awakening that's taking place. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. This awakening process is going to evolve for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. But you're in a key or critical point in it right now, a point where the speed, for lack of a better word, the expansion of consciousness was taking a very critical step several years ago, and now it's actually in process. It's actually taking place. But wait, there's more to this new consciousness on Earth. It is affecting your angelic families. These are the families that you consider your true family, your family where you came from long, long before you ever came to Earth. These were groups, sometimes large, sometimes smaller, but groups of angelic beings who you bonded with at the very early stage of your sovereignty. These are beings who you worked with to help create what you now know as your physical universe, as well as the multiple dimensions that are non-physical. What is happening on Earth right now is literally changing the structure of the angelic families, all 144,000 angelic families. These angelic families that are out in the other realms or dimensions have been on a kind of a standstill. They've been in a holding pattern for what would appear to you to be a very long time. They've been waiting. They've been waiting to see what was going to happen on Earth. And now that it is happening on Earth, it's affecting them. You could say that they've been in their own stall or traffic jam for a long time. And now that the energies on Earth are moving again in a new and a high consciousness direction, it's also allowing the spiritual families from where you came to once again expand. They were without any expansion for what you would consider the longest time. They were waiting. And now they are moving again.
What is the potential of that?
Explain your question.
What does that mean?
We were getting there.
Oh,
getting there. You're more psychic than you realize. What does that mean? That means that what you consider to be changes in your own personal world, your own creation, it has a significant effect on everything else. What it means is that the actions that you take, the consciousness that you embrace, the choices that you make in your life are literally affecting the potential of everything else. Conversely, it means that literally because the angelic family energies are expanding again, it also, you could say, triggers or activates something within you to say you also are free to expand again. Because everything is changing, it changes the way, I'm going to get some ridicule about this, but it changes the ways the stars, the planets, the solar systems, the universe is arranged and works within itself. It changes every energy structure in the physical universe. It changes the energy structures in the non-physical universe. Everything that was is no longer. Now, that's good news. That's good news because it means that change is here. What you've been dreaming about, what you've been praying for, what you have been begging for, change, evolution in your own life is taking place, and it's taking place everywhere right now. You could say that in a very simple way that whatever you've known to be true is no longer just the truth. There are going to be many, many more truths that come in. The way structures were in place and arranged, including Earth physics, including material physics, are going to change. Gravity will change. Now, don't expect to walk out the door tomorrow and float off to work. What happens is literally the dynamics of gravity are changing, but it's going to be a small number of people who notice it first. And notice that gravity is no longer linear. Gravity is can no longer be defined in specific terms. There are new variables to gravity. So gravity will still work like it did yesterday for most people, but some people are going to discover now that there were what you would say hidden potentials with gravity. There are now new dimensions to gravity itself. So you're no longer stuck in just the old gravitational forces. You can literally shift and expand yourself into some of the new workings of gravity, apply it into your life, play with it, discover that physics are not set in concrete, as many scientists would like to believe, and now it changes your life. Now it's also going to make you feel a little dizzy at first because you're defying or actually rearranging what you would have thought to be regular gravity, but you're changing it. And it's the same with every physical characteristic on Earth. Electricity, which the scientists and engineers feel it works in very specific, defined ways, you're going to discover first in your own life and later on for larger groups and eventually for humanity that electricity works different than what people know right now. And it leads to an interesting proposition that, yes, electricity, for instance, magnetism, magnetics, atomic structures, everything right now works in a specific way, but everything is going to have expanded or new capabilities to it for those who are willing to tap in. I hope that answered your question, Linda.
That was a grand start.
Yes, thank you. So what I'm saying here is the globe, the world, Earth, and humanity, they're waking up. As they wake up, it also changes the near-Earth realms. It changes the heavens. It changes the angelic families. It changes every other dimension. By doing so, those changes in the other realms begin to open up new potentials for every structure on Earth. It's going to change mathematics. There's a belief on Earth right now that mathematics work in a certain way. They don't. There's going to be those who discover that there's much more to math than what is currently known. But humans couldn't see it up to now because everything was stuck in very rigid systems. While all of this may sound beautiful, wonderful, perhaps a little daunting, on the other hand, there are many, many humans who don't want change. They're afraid of change. They're afraid of the unknown. They often, deep within their hearts, they feel that change is evil. Change is not appropriate. There are those who stand on pulpits and pound their fists and say that God does not want change. God does not want us to change. God just wants us to obey. So there's going to be a resistance to all of these things happening. That resistance actually increases the speed at which things change. Now, it sounds like an odd statement because you would say, no, the resistance would actually slow things down. But resistance creates a type of energy of its own. That energy then is brought back into the system of change, or the dynamics of change that are taking place, and consciousness change itself will use that resistance to increase the speed of change. So those who are resisting are going to find it very, very difficult. Those who are accepting the change that has been prayed for, that has been dreamt about, and that has been imagined is taking place right now. What does that mean to you as an individual, as a change worker on Earth right now? It means that this is a time of absolute trust in yourself. And we've talked about this before. We'll talk about it again now. Anytime things change outside of your level of comfort, you like a little bit of change, but you've got your boundaries. Anytime the change gets to be too much, you tend to withdraw. You go out of trust. Because so much of your programming is based on the mental structure or mental consciousness. Mental consciousness doesn't particularly care for change, even though it also in itself asks for change, but when it happens, it tends to retreat or withdraw. You, my dear friends, are all being placed in an opportunity of trusting yourself. There is a word we use on the other side. It is a angelic tone. It's not so much a human word, but it is amyo. Amyo means trust in yourself. Amyo means be with this. Be with you. Be in trust. You have all these things happening around you. You have drama flying all around you. You have issues coming up from within yourself. You have aspects that are going somewhat chaotic and crazy right now. You have all this commotion. But I say to you, amyo, be with this. Be with you. Be in trust. And you will glide through this. You will, as was said earlier tonight, you will find the grace in it. You will come to laugh at yourself and how you were making it so difficult when actually it is so simple. It is amyo, the grace of trust in yourself. Basically to say, you planned this, you imagined it, and now it's happening. Can you now let yourself experience it and love it? I see a few of you shaking your head. I see a few of you building up some anxiety and saying, yes, but when my body is rebelling, when I have stomach problems, when I was just told the other day that I have diabetes or cancer, how can you tell me, Adamus, to be with this? But, I say to you, you have given yourself such a beautiful opportunity to not just talk about it, but to live it. Not just to spit out the words, but to be it. So you have diabetes. Amyo, be with this. It's there for you. It's not there to tear your life apart. It's not there as a punishment. It is a beautiful opportunity. It is new energy, but you're only seeing it as a disease, as old energy. Stop for a moment. There is so much more to the diabetes, to the cancer, to the flu, to the headaches, to the backaches, to the shoulder aches. You're only looking at it from an old human perspective. What's really there? If you were in absolute trust with yourself, if you were in this state of Amyo, you would understand that it is beautiful. It is beautiful. Now, it's a difficult thing to ask somebody who is in a physical body to be in absolute trust of everything going on around them. It's difficult to say trust yourself as you walk down the street at night. Trust yourself that you're in a safe space. Trust yourself that if you just lost your job, that this is a gift that has come your way. And I know that, I know you curse me. I hear you curse me. And I know sometimes you say it, but Adamus, you don't know what it's like to be in my shoes. And I do. I absolutely do. And if I were you, I would get out of those shoes right away. You and only you can unlace them and step out of them and realize that they're really not your shoes. Stop owning them. In other words, let go of all those things that you've been hanging on to. You know, I get so passionate about this. It's very, very easy, and if you're not having it easy in your life right now, if you're having it difficult, I challenge you to say, then why are you choosing it to be difficult? There must be something in you that actually likes it. There must be something in you that doesn't want or the grace, or doesn't feel that you're worthy of the grace, or maybe just likes having the drama. So if you don't like it, if you're cursing me and saying, but Adamus, you should walk one step in my shoes, I say, just get out of the shoes. I refer back to one of the profound statements from Katsumi. Katsumi said, you have already ascended. Now, how are you going to experience getting there? You're walking backwards through time, as it were. You've already arrived at ascension. The moment in the heart of your sovereign being, a long, long time ago, you said, I choose ascension. You were there. You already made it. Now you're going back to experience what it was like getting there. You and only you can make that choice. No, it's not your mother or father. It's not society. It's not your job. It's not your past lives that are dictating your experience. It is you in this moment. How do you want to experience ascension? It's up to you. You want to experience it with trials and tribulations, so that when you get to the hall with all the other ascended masters, you can talk about how you had it more difficult. I'm sorry, but that's not going to work. I had the most challenging story. 100,000 years in a crystal. So your story won't beat mine. Don't even try. How about your story being one of grace and release and compassion and joy and just plain damn fun and abundance? I'd like to hear a story from somebody making it into the realms of the ascended masters saying, I don't want to know why all you crazy bastards took the hard road. I took the easy way. And perhaps that should be a message to humanity. I didn't have to hang from a cross to get here. I didn't have to starve myself and deprive myself of the joys of human living. I didn't have to lock myself in a crystal for 100,000 years. I didn't have to die rotting in a prison cell to realize the God within. I would love for the next one who walks through this door of ascension to say, I did it my way, the easy way, the graceful way. So speaking of that, before we go on to your questions, let me add a few other things that are happening right now on Earth. You're exactly where you should be, and stop questioning it. You are exactly where you should be. You have chosen this evolution. You have chosen a new form of consciousness. You're going through the process of getting there, so you are exactly where you should be. What's happening right now on Earth is that there's a tremendous amount of what you would call friction or stress, chaos on Earth right now. It's a natural part of a major evolutionary process. Look at it this way. Your Earth is awakening. It's the dawn of a new Earth. This isn't just another lifetime. This isn't just another page out of the history of Earth. This is the change that has been prophesied, and you are the messengers of the change. Yes, you. I'm not talking to the person on that other computer. I'm talking to you. You're here because you chose to be a messenger, and my job is to remind you of that. My job is to wake you up, get you motivated, get you back into it. You chose to come here as a messenger, and somehow you went to sleep even within the dream that you were asleep in to begin with. You went into another form of deep sleep and dream. You're the messengers. I'm going to say that again and really hear it. You are the messengers. Does that ring a bell? Does that strike some chord within you? Does that help you to remember why you chose to come here? Now, wouldn't you be disappointed if you went through the rest of your life purposely or maybe not so consciously, but forgetting that you were the messenger, forgetting that's why you came here? Wouldn't you feel a bit silly if you got to the other side, still scratching your head and saying, I forgot why I went to Earth in this last lifetime. I totally forgot. And the others around you would say, well, you went there to be a messenger. What did you do? Well, I fell asleep, you say. I fell asleep. I forgot that I was a messenger. No, not possible, because you asked me to come and remind you. You are a messenger. You asked Cryon. You asked the group. You asked Archangel Michael and the multitude of angelic beings to remind you. You are the messenger of these times. You're not going to feel particularly content until you get on with that job of being a messenger. Part of the messenger is letting the rest of the world know that they're awakening, that they're ultimately sovereign, that ultimately it is their choice of how they want to do it. You're the messenger to say that this is the time. This is the page in the history books that you've been waiting for a long time. Right now, there's a tremendous amount of what you would call built-up energy in the form of chaos, friction, stress, depression, anger, and a multitude of other types of actions that are around right now. You can feel it. You can feel stress when you walk out of your house. You can feel stress when you walk back in your house. It's out there everywhere. You're trying, or humanity is trying to run from chaos by trying to overstructure everything, and it's not going to work right now because everything is getting unstructured. And what is perceived to be chaos is not chaos at all. It is actually a cosmic harmony in a form that's not currently understood by your perception systems, your mind, your eyes, and your ears. It's not chaos. It is It is a heavenly harmony that you're just not able to understand. Every one of these types of what I call stress or challenge energy that's out there, and they're out there at an all-time high, is actually waiting to serve you, to serve anyone who is wise enough to understand that it's really not friction, it's really not stress, it's really not depression or anger, it's just energy in a rather activated form. It's just energy that is bouncing off the walls right now, waiting to serve a master. All of these energies, whether they're in your life or whether they're coming from global consciousness, can be transmuted into very clear energies that will serve you. Do not mistake this for what you've known as chi or prana or these type of things, because this energy is different. It's not your old life force energy. This energy is actually already within you, but you're just seeing it manifested on the outside. This energy is yours. It's not coming at you from outside sources. There's a word that we use to describe this form of energy that is already within, but highly unrecognized. It is called Hak. Hak is a term that also means the God within you, and in this case it refers to as the energies that the God within you, the sovereignty within you, can transmute to bring out of the perception of chaos and stress and depression, and to bring into pure energy that's going to serve your clarity, your choices, your manifestations and creations. It's going to serve you as being a messenger on earth. This energy that we call Hak is here right now. All you have to do is to take a deep breath and make the choice for it to be in your life. Make the choice to go beyond the limited perception of chaos and stress, and to understand that all is in its perfect order. All is exactly where it should be. All is changing right now on earth as it is in the heavens. And with that, I'll end my discourse, and I'll be happy to take your questions.
Wow,
well, Adamus,
thank you.
Adamus, thank you so much for being here tonight. This is great. I absolutely loved your message. It was terrific, and there's several things that you mentioned in your message that, boy, they just really hit home with me. And I want to start with one question. We've touched on this before on other shows with you. You were talking about the near-Earth realms, and that reminds me of people who are always talking about in these times that we're in. They're talking about I wish I could just go home. I wish I could just go home and just be done with this. Or people have said this is my last time here. After I'm done with this one, then I'm going home and I'm staying there. And then you started talking about the near-Earth realms. So could you just talk about home a little bit and expand on that?
I'd be happy to. And I'll refer back to one of Tobias' discussions many years ago. There is no home. Now, I know that may sound depressing, and it would be like telling Dorothy that she could never get back to Kansas. But hear me out for a moment. Home, what you knew was the first circle, the original sovereignty, and home. Don't confuse it with some big complex God being with some grand design to send out little children into the universe to go through all the challenges of life. The home was absolute pure simplicity and perhaps what you would call love, or what I prefer to call compassion. That was home. It was pure simplicity. That is basically the definition of spirit or God. Absolute simplicity. But now the human mind says, well, simplicity means singular. Not at all. Simplicity is multi-dimensional. It has tremendous depth to it. It just doesn't get all crapped up by mental systems. So that was home. the moment that home expanded, the minute that home, the God Self said, "Who am I?" everything changed. To give this God being the experience of truly living through itself, through you. It granted each and every one of us sovereignty so that we would someday have return to that simplicity that once we were. Although you never go back, it's a simple forward, so to speak. So that was home. Now, there's the common misperception among humans that is reinforced by religions for interesting purposes, but that when you die, you go to heaven or you go to hell. When you die, you go. That is for sure. You go somewhere, and what we call this is the near-earth realms. They are, you could say, dimensionally connected with this planet Earth. They have, by the way, the near-earth realms have gravitational and magnetic forces. Doesn't work like they do here on Earth because there are really not physical properties in these near-earth realms, but there are gravitational forces. There are astrological forces in these realms as well. When the first angelic beings came to Earth, a long, long time ago, there were no near-earth realms. There wasn't any, you could say, outer ring of consciousness around Earth. But the moment that the beings that had come to Earth and taken on physical forms started to die, part of them stuck around, hung around. Part of them was basically invested in Earth. They'd taken on physical body. So a layer of consciousness, a dimension of consciousness started to grow on Earth. Now, eons of time later, these near-earth realms are very dense. They're dense with energies and consciousness, beings who have been on Earth before. These near-earth realms have actually been infiltrated by beings who have never been on Earth, never taken physical body, what you would call the aliens and the ETs, the ones with the rather negative agendas. They have infiltrated into the near-earth realms because that is where they go to steal energy, that is where they go to feed, that is where they go to try to influence beings who have recently crossed over. I would have to say, it's somewhat of a mess in some parts of the near-earth realms. Most humans go there when they die, and they continue in almost a dream state, going through experiences, but without all the harsh physical characteristics. But they shape and they shift, and they basically continue to experience their beliefs. They build an intensity in these experiences and a passion that eventually is the very thing that draws them back to Earth, whether they made a conscious choice or not. It is actually, literally, a magnetic force that sucks them right back to Earth in physical body. Now, for higher consciousness beings, for aware beings, or beings who have dumped all their crap, released, you're not going to have to experience that. You can get a pass, you can go past the near-earth realms, go straight back into the crystalline realms, which are much higher consciousness, or back into the what you would call the energetic the energetic realms of your spiritual families. You go back and kind of hang out with the spiritual families, but eventually you're even drawn back here to Earth. Until at some point you say, no mas, no more. Done with the karma, done with this constant cycle of coming back to Earth in physical body, done with forgetting who I really am. When you clearly state that while you're in physical body on Earth, then everything changes. No longer do you necessarily need to go to experience a typical death and go to the near-earth realms. You can actually make a very clear choice that you are going to connect the dots on your ascension. You are no longer going to come back here. You go off into what we call your third circle or your realm of sovereignty. I'm getting long-winded here, but this is a brilliant discussion. Now, up until recently, those beings who finalized their ascension, in other words, they said, I don't need to experience how I got there anymore, I just want to experience being there. Up until this point, there was only about 9,300 and some beings who had ever lived on Earth who went into their sovereignty, into their third circle. Never had to return to Earth again, didn't necessarily want to, for a variety of reasons. However, something changed a couple of years ago, and now even some of the ascended masters, up to 1,500 of them, will come back to Earth. Not to save Earth, not at all. They want to experience Earth and this new energy in a new and different way. They are helping to set up the next template for incarnation that doesn't have to involve the birthing process or even getting embedded into physical matter. In other words, incarnation itself, or the revisit to Earth, will take on a totally different way in the future. In other words, you, Joe, can make the choice to say, this is going to be my last lifetime on Earth. You, Joe, can make the choice of how and actually when you want to die, if you are clear. Now, if you're carrying a lot of baggage and you're just angry and you're saying, I want out of this place, no, you really haven't released. But if you make a clear, loving choice that this is your last lifetime, you'll literally leave when you want to leave, and in the highest state of this departure, you won't even leave behind a physical body, because your physical body integrates with you. Your physical body is just an aspect. It integrates, and it comes with you into ascension. And then you will be able to come back to Earth, not for karma, not for development or lessons, but actually just to sit on a rock and laugh. And just to be there as a messenger or a teacher for those who truly are struggling. And you're going to say something profound to them like, trust yourself. Just trust yourself. And then they walk away all confused, and you sit there and laugh your ass off because you know it was the truth, and you know it works, but you know that they're probably not ready to do that yet.
I must say that that sounds a whole lot like what's going on right now. Only now I get to have Italian food with it.
Yeah, exactly, and you would be able to now. And the beauty is that you would be fully aware. And I know right now all of you grapple with this. You would love to be fully aware, but there are times you feel so asleep. Well, one of my jobs is to help wake you up. So thank you for the delightful question.
Terrific. It was great. It was a great answer. And as a matter of fact, I've been meaning to really have you expound on that the last two times that you have been on, and that was just a wonderful explanation. There was a question in the chat room a while ago while you were talking, and it had something. Yes.
Do you mind if I add something? Adamus channeled this whole thing about ascension and Dreamwalker Ascension and Dreamwalker Death, and it actually goes into great detail if people are interested in that.
Okay, and that can be found at the Crimson Circle?
Yeah. I'm not trying to make it an advertisement, but there's a lot of information that Adamus has offered on that.
Well, that's just, but they can find it. They go to crimsoncircle.com and find the channels on there.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. That's great. Fabulous. What I was going to say is there was a question in the chat room earlier, and it kind of disappeared from there, but I remember it. It had to do with, would it be possible, Adamus, for you to describe the dimension that you're in if one of us happened to peek into it? What would it look like?
That is a wonderful question. I would actually like to do an experience rather than just talk about it, because words won't define it very well. Let's do it right now if we have the time.
Sure.
So what I'm going to ask is for you to get comfortable, all of you who are listening in. I'm going to ask that you remember for a moment that you know how to do this. You've done it countless times before, maybe not in your conscious waking state in this lifetime, but you absolutely know how to do this. And when the mind starts saying, do what? Stop. You know how to do this. Now, take a deep breath. Best if you close your eyes, because the sense of sight is one of the biggest deceivers. The eyes only see a fraction of 1% of what is really there. So close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath. And I'm going to open you to my world, to my dimension. Breathe into it. Breathe into it. Take a deep breath. I open the doorway and invite you in for a moment. Continue breathing. You know how to do this. And here is the real example of trusting yourself. Can you trust yourself on what you are being aware of right now? Let go of what you think it should be. Let go of what you feel are your limitations. Take one more good deep breath. Trust yourself, because you're here in my world. Now take a deep breath. Relax. Now, you say, but I'm trying to define it. That's the problem. Because you're trying to define it with language or symbols or terms or mental structures that aren't able to truly define it in its entirety. You can define when I make a sound or a noise, but how do you define that space that you were just in? I don't even like to use words, even to define colors, because it's limited, or sounds. There are sounds in here, in this. I don't like to use philosophical statements to say something like, it is my sovereign space and therefore it is, because that just gets you running amok in your head. But absolute feeling and absolute trust. And then don't try to define it. That's actually the real secret. Don't try to define it, because that will only hold you back. Just experience it. So take a deep breath and hop into my world again for a moment, without definition. And this was, actually, you can get out of my world now. I don't want to be carrying you around all evening. You have your world, I have mine. Bring your energy back to yourself is what I'm saying. So now, there's part of you that says, but what was it? Now, here's where absolute trust comes in. It will start to make itself known to you. It will open itself to you through the senses that you normally use, and it will also start to activate what I would call the divine intelligence that goes beyond the limitations of the mind. You see, that's what's really happening with all of you right now. You have this thing called your body, you have your mind. What's happening is, a while back you activated or made a choice to integrate the true divine intelligence, and it is happening, but it's one moment you feel that it's starting to happen, the next moment you feel you're falling backwards. That's when you take a deep breath and trust it is happening. You want to try to define it and say, well, what does it look like? What does it feel like? How powerful is it? How much energy does it consume? And what problems does it solve? See, you're back to the old human thinking. The divine intelligence does not work like that. Divine intelligence does not consume energy. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that you make, is you think it has to consume. You think you have to feed it something. No, that's the human mind that needs feeding. The divine doesn't. You want it to act in a certain structural way, like your mind does. Your mind has a way it deals with analysis and problem solving. The divine doesn't. The divine does not. The divine intelligence does not know what a problem is, because it has none. There is nothing that is unsolved. So it does not know analysis. It does not know problems and solutions. It already has answered the question before it's ever asked. So, next.
You know, the last couple of times we barely touched on a couple of things, and I want to see if we can clarify. One of them is this idea of divine will versus free will. What's the difference there?
The divine will is what you would call your true soul passion or desire, and it absolutely overrides what you would call your human free will. I have to laugh when I hear humans talking about their free will. You really don't have a free will. You pretend that you do. Because you think that you can choose today whether you want to wear brown shoes or black shoes, but your free will was given away a long time ago. That's a whole show we can do in that, and I will get a lot of people angry about it, but it is true. You pretend that you have free will, but you gave it away. You absolutely gave it away, and you continue to give it away every day by not allowing yourself to trust yourself. Mm-hmm. Every moment out of trust, you have just given away free will. However, the good news is there is a divine will. You could say your soul's will. It is the guiding force in the journey of your consciousness. It overrides even what you would say would be the human free will or the human choices. This part of you knows that you are coming into your sovereignty through experience. It doesn't, this divine will, it doesn't know pain. It doesn't know death. The human is only aware of that. Truly, your divine does not know of hardship because that is a human concept. So it isn't bogged down by all these petty things like death and pain and poverty that the human is. So it can go through its journey. It can find itself without all of these burdens. And it is at work in your life every moment. When you allow yourself to connect with that, in other words, when you get over the human limitations and the human littleness that people carry, then you connect with that. And then there is no need to have a passion. There is no need to have to build up your ego to create and maintain and hold on to your identity. All those go away. You tap into your divine will, and you realize that that will is just about the answer to the original question, who am I?
And that's the passion.
And that is the true passion. But don't confuse it with these manufactured, artificial human passions. That those are actually distractions. The true passion is the final realization to the question, who am I? And of course, the answer is, I am that I am. Be with this. Be with you. Be in trust.
And one more quick question before we go, because the time's getting short. As it always does, we could go on and on and on. I would like to know, what is your take on oneness?
Well, that's a loaded gun.
2,500 words or less.
Yeah, 2,500 words or less. You are your own oneness. There's also this. I have to shake my head and wag my finger. There is this kind of interesting consciousness or belief that many New Agers have, spiritual people, that is rather distracting. That we are all oneness. No, we're not. I honor you. I have compassion for you, and I have tremendous respect for you, but we are not one, you and I. You, dear Joe, are your own oneness. That is the definition of an ascended master, when you realize the oneness is within. Your sovereignty and your realization of the I am is not dependent on Linda's or any of the listeners or anyone else. We came from the same breath, but then we became our own breath, and we don't return back into the singular breath of everyone. That would be going backwards. You come to understand that you are the breath. That's all that matters. You are the breath. So it is a great distraction for those to say, let us sing Kumbaya, let us all go back into oneness. I think that would be called communism, perhaps. I think that would be called group energy, and really where this emanates from. Anyone who starts to talk about let's all go into our group oneness, take a look at their face for a moment, beyond what you normally see. Take a look. You're going to see their Atlantis face on. Because Atlantis was about group energy, was about the community. There was little or no attention to the one, to the individual. But now we are in the age of the individual. Now, there are those who say, yes, but you should do everything for everyone else. You should do it for the common good. You should serve and sacrifice for others. I don't think that's the way it's supposed to be. I think that was created by some humans who had a very specific agenda to get you to work hard, to get you to do things for them rather than for yourself. The most sacred thing you could do is to do something for you.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. I agree with that. Well, I was going to say I agree with that 1,000%, but I know that there's really only 100% in the math that I perceive. So
yes, but I would like you to change your math, because there is actually literally more than 100%. And you say, well, how can that be? Well, I can show you new dimensions. I can show you new perspectives that you've never seen before. So there actually is more than 100%.
Well, I have a really good friend of mine up in Canada. And he says, well, I buy into that 130%, or I buy into that 120%, or I, put 115% into that. And I said, well, of course you did, because there's an exchange rate.
Yes.
Adamus, I really, really must say thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm sure that there were a couple of feathers ruffled with a couple of your statements made, but I think that's the reason why you resonate with me so well, because I like to. I will ruffle a feather or two along the way. And the whole idea of trust, I'm just so thrilled that you were talking about trusting self. I will tell you that I've mentioned to people before, that, everybody, you're talking about kumbaya and oneness and, it's all about love and everything. And, I feel strongly about this. It might be about that or maybe not, and to me, it really doesn't matter. The key to the whole thing is the trust.
Absolutely, and to look at it in a very pragmatic way, what do you have? What do you have, dear Joe and Linda and listeners? What do you have other than trust in yourself? The world has done you a great favor in these recent years. It's proven that you can't trust what you did before, the institutions, the businesses, the governments, or anything else, because they're just human also. But what do you have left but to trust yourself? Oh, that is the most blessed, the most sacred, and the most exalted thing, is to trust yourself. Your experience tells you otherwise. Your human experience says, but I can't trust my body. It's going to betray me. I can't trust my mind because sometimes I think I'm going out of it. I can't trust anything about myself. But yes, you can. It's what you have left. It is that last breath. It's what you have left. Trust in yourself. As I say, be with this. In other words, trust this moment. Be with you. You are what you have. Be in trust. It is the time.
Adamus, once again, thank you so much. This has really been a great time. I know this. We have more times together coming up in the future, or in the present, or in whatever dimension we happen to be in. And again, I thank you so much. Great messages.
Thank you, and let me end with a very simple statement. If you are having difficulty breathing and trusting right now, just remember, all is well in all of creation. And therefore, I am that I am.
And so it is. So I think that there was a lot of gift offered here to us, and to breathe and trust it. And as this show ends, I hope that people will take some time and just breathe and be with that for a little bit, because the gift of trusting self is well worth spending some time breathing with. So I really invite all of us to take some time for ourselves and just breathe with this concept of truth. Thank you. Thank you.